God wants to speak to you right now. See, I don't know if this message is for you, someone you know, or something that is going to speak to you, but maybe you haven't been thinking this recently, or maybe it's in your heart. But whatever that is, God wants to speak to you this right now. You are doubting your purpose. You are doubting your purpose. You are doubting why God has you here. You are doubting why God has you here on this earth, why he made you even. You're doubting down to that, and that is what's getting you to the point of not wanting to be here anymore, or not wanting to do anything, or feeling like life is purposeless because you don't know your purpose. Or you know it and you don't acknowledge it. Here's the thing, so many of us Christians, so many of us non-believers know our purpose because it's rooted in us. It's been rooted in us ever since Jesus died for us. It's been rooted in us, and we know it deep down in our hearts. But the human heart can sometimes get calloused and get so strong to be a wall against us thinking of our purpose. And the enemy can speak to us, speak down on us, and speak bad thoughts on us, saying we don't have a purpose. But in the true fact is that he wants to stop us from this one purpose that we have always had. And I don't know why you doubt your purpose. I don't know why you doubt it. Maybe you've had certain times where people have spoken down on you. The enemy speaks down on you and says you don't have a purpose here and that you should die, or you have suicidal thoughts from the enemy. But the way is, and the truth is that the purpose you have is to preach the gospel. To preach the gospel, to speak about Jesus. But here's the thing, a lot of people ignore that because they know how hard it is. A lot of people don't want to acknowledge how hard it is to preach the gospel. And that's our purpose, preaching about Jesus, preaching the gospel. And the enemy doesn't want us to think that. The enemy does not want us to do that. That's why he's stopping us. That's why he's putting this doubt and this overflowing amount of doubt and just sadness towards our purpose. We always think we don't have a purpose sometimes. Sometimes we get in our mind that we don't have a purpose here, that God placed us here for no reason. But we are meant to preach the gospel to bring more people with us to heaven. And God never said it would be easy. And it's funny because God plants this purpose in our heart because he knows we're going to have to rely on his strength. God is not going to place something in your heart or in your life where you're not going to have to rely on his strength. And that might be why in this season you don't have this certain thing you want, because he knows deep down you are not going to rely on him once you get that. But here's the thing, your purpose, you're always going to have to rely on it. Because the purpose you get from God, you'll have to rely on him from that purpose, for that strength to do your purpose. The purpose that God plants in us is never going to be easy. We always think that the purpose that we have is the easiest thing for us to do, but no, most of the time it's the hardest thing we can do for us. But we all have a purpose, and that's to talk about Jesus, to preach about Jesus, to bring more people with us to heaven, but the enemy wants us to not recognize that. The enemy wants us to doubt that. But God wants you to know right now, you have a purpose, and that is to preach about my son, to preach about me. Get more people to heaven. It might seem hard, and that might be why you're not acknowledging it. But acknowledge it right now in this moment, because you have a chance to acknowledge it and take God's strength into your hands and take that first step that you need to, so then you can fulfill the purpose God has for you. The purpose that God always has had for you. The purpose that you always will have and always have had. But the enemy wants you to doubt that. You have a purpose, and that is to preach the gospel.